Welcome back to the 95 Trucking Podcast, a podcast that is all about trucking. Again, we want to thank all of our audiences for tuning in and subscribing. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Please comment so that we can share this information with a lot of more people in the trucking community. Now, a couple episodes ago, we spoke about all kind of like all the illegal things that you can get away with in trucking, right? But this time, we're going to speak about a quick story that Tab, our guest today, has on the consequences that you can face, and like we're talking big time consequences like prison time. So Tab, again, thank you for being on the show. This is your second time here. So tell us, oh no, this is your third time.
Actually, my third time, yes.
Yes, this is your third time. Okay, so welcome back.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about this story, what happened, and just so you guys are aware, and just to kind of like reiterate who Tab is. He's in charge of safety. So all of your safety departments, anything that you need to know about safety, he is the man. Okay, so he has all the information. He knows the big books in and out.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Tab. So tell us a little bit about what happened and how does this happen?
Well, it happened on a new driver. Only had his CDL for a few months. Actually, what happened was he got inspected. This is in the state of Maine, but just about every other state has pretty much very similar laws. Maybe the consequences are a little more severe, a little less severe, but we're going to use Maine as an
example.
That's a center point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
He was placed out of service. The vehicle had a couple of things. Now,
usually when you're placed out of service, you're placed out of service for like 24 hours.
Well, it depends. Okay. It is 10 hours usually if you have an out of service violation. If it's a vehicle defect, then you're out of service until the defect is corrected.
Okay.
Whether it could be 10 seconds or 3 months.
Okay.
Right? But this is what happened here. He got placed out of service for a few things on the vehicle.
Okay.
And I don't know. I really didn't get into the details with him because I really didn't want to know, to be honest with you, was the why part. But X reason, he didn't have enough, either he didn't have enough money for the road service, or the road service was going to take him too long, or whatever the case may be. He left and he jumped the out of service order. With the very bad luck that about 15 minutes down the road, he ran into the same trooper.
The same trooper that stopped him.
Yeah. So
okay, that put him out of service.
That put him out of service, and he looked at me and goes, "Hey, kind of, not enough time really went by, right, for him to be out here already." So he pulled him over again.
Right.
What happens when you jump an out of service order? There's civil consequences and there's criminal consequences. Many people are not aware of this. It is a criminal act. It's a misdemeanor, but it's a criminal act.
Okay.
Right. So, aside from being fined up to $25,000, I believe it either went up or was about to go up to about 32,000 for jumping an out of service order, which will usually go to the driver and or the company. The driver was arrested.
Okay.
So we have issues that many people just think, hey, it's no big deal. It's a fine, right? It's not a fine. So he got arrested. He spent the night in jail. He was able to bail out. And, court case came up last Thursday. Now, what are the consequences in Maine, right? And we're going to use this as an average. So it varies from state to state, so please keep that in mind. Some states may be a little more severe, a little less severe.
Okay.
Right? But Maine considers it a Class E misdemeanor, which is up to 6 months in jail and up to a $2,000 fine.
Okay, so 6 months in jail and 2,000.
And or both.
Or both.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is what this driver was facing.
Plus the fine that DOT.
Well, yeah, these are criminal matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only does he get a criminal record, it is a criminal record. He gets arrested, he gets booked, he gets photographed, fingerprinted, the whole shebang, right? And now he has to deal with this. We were able to, with the help of the understanding of the prosecutor, right? And the public defender that the state had automatically assigned to him, we were able to show and ask for some type of mercy for him because one, he was practically, a rookie. He had his, I believe, it was less than 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if the driver would have been something like he had 4, 5, 10 years on the road, we probably won't be able to get this done the way it was.
Okay.
But we were able to manage to get him to done with hours of community service. I'm not going to say how many, right? I'm just going to keep this a little private on him, on his own. But with hours of community service,
Okay.
right? So, and that was because of his recent record. Right? He didn't have any criminal history background or anything, but these are things that you have to be worried about when you're going to thinking about jumping out of service area. Also, let's talk about what would have happened if he would have gotten into an accident. Okay? If he would have gotten into an accident, and let's say let's make this real simple. He was stopped at a red light. He didn't do anything wrong. He stopped at a red light. Here comes a driver under the influence, maybe even with a suspended driver's license and no insurance. Let's go with the whole shebang, right?
Right.
Hits him in the rear and passes away. In the eyes of the law, our truck driver is responsible for that death. Because in the eyes of the law, that truck shouldn't have been there. That truck should be where he was placed out of service.
He broke the law first.
Right? So, and in the eyes of the law, what they do is they say, okay, well, little Jimmy, right? If that truck wasn't there, he probably would have hit a telephone pole.
He would have survived.
He probably, maybe, not definite, but maybe he would have survived. So the only reason we know that he completely know 100% that he passed away is because
the truck
was there.
Wow.
So now the driver's looking at vehicular manslaughter in some states,
Yeah.
death by auto in others, but which is pretty much the same thing with different names, right?
Right.
But now we're looking at 5 to 15 years in prison.
Yeah. Big
So,
prison time.
so it's something that drivers should need to worry about, need to consider, right? Now, some states are using, 9 times out of 10 you're placed out of service either at a way station or at a rest area. Sometimes you get stopped on the road and the trooper or the inspector will escort you to a safer place. What they're doing is checking on the cameras in those places to see if when you left, right? So
Okay.
let's say, for example, you got placed out of service for 10 hours. Now, the troopers had to close the rest area for whatever. They had to leave. Their shift was over, and they leave. And it happens every day.
Right. Right.
However,
You still.
you're still supposed to be there, right? Right? And they leave early.
Yeah, which happens all the time.
Happens more than we like to admit, right?
Right. Right.
Now, they're using those as evidence to go get this guy back again, a couple of months down the road.
Oh wow. So they're waiting a
So,
couple months.
It depends on, you have to find them. And sometimes you have drivers that are on the road. They don't come back every day back to the terminal.
But wouldn't that affect the company either way?
Well, the company is still responsible.
They're held
Right?
liable.
They're held liable, right? And that's why the DOT will come in. We'll do an audit, and that's where the 23,000 will come into 25,000 will come into effect, right? And if the FMCSA deems that the driver does this on more than one or twice, right? Then the driver can be considered what's called an imminent hazard, and have a CDL taken away.
Okay, so they can have their CDL completely revoked.
Completely revoked for up to 10 years.
So what happens with the driver in the first example that, you guys were able to get some community service? What happens with his record, his MBR? Is he able to get work somewhere else?
This is the thing. It's a criminal record. It's not a moving violation, so it's not on his MVR.
Okay.
It will pop up on his background check.
Okay.
All right. It will pop up on his PSP because he got placed out of service and there was an inspection report attached to it. So, if he goes in the next 3 years, goes to apply to another company, they will know that he jumped in out of service order. And people like me, for example, when you're going to hire somebody and you see that right off the bat, that's pretty much an automatic disqualification, just like a DUI.
Right. So you'll be
So-
at people's mercy.
Exactly. So, and insurance companies probably won't even want to deal with you either. So you may find somebody willing to give you a hand, but the insurance company says, no way, not this guy.
Right.
So it's we need to make sure that these drivers know the consequences of what's going on and what can happen to them later, because pretty much you're just driving your career away.
Right.
No pun intended, right? But
Yeah.
that's what they're doing. They're just driving their career away.
Right. So if you want long-term success and longevity in the trucking industry, you have to do things the right way, one way or the other. You have to be able to get, okay, if you do get off track, find a way to get on track, as soon as possible, because things happen. We understand, it's hard to survive sometimes. We understand that as well, but without the right proper, safety, regulations put in place for the company and for your drivers, and if you don't run a tight ship, it's really hard to.
Rules are there for a reason,
Right.
right? And rules are usually they are imposed when something bad has already happened. Not
Right.
many rules are put in effect before something happens,
Right.
right? So it's up to the driver to know all these things. Now, unfortunately, and it's sad for me to say this, but I've been doing this for 23 years. But I've seen from the last 10, maybe 12 years to here, a lot of drivers and a lot of companies are not prepared to be in this industry. They don't know everything that they need to know.
Right, because this is a new driver.
Exactly.
Was he your owner operator, or
he
was
was
working?
he was an owner operator? Yes.
Okay.
He was an owner operator. His history. I can get into a little bit of details here. Most of his career was straight jobs.
Okay.
Okay, so he would drive with a regular driver's license, and most of his career was driving a straight truck.
Okay.
He wanted to graduate from a straight truck guy to a class 8, right?
Right,
Tractor
driver.
trailer,
Mhm.
right? So he thought everything was the same rules, which it is, right? The only problem is, they're not. I shouldn't blame. I don't like to say the word blame. I look for cause, right? I look for cause. One of the main things I see causing this is a lot of the driving schools don't teach these drivers what to do. They teach them how to
Right.
pass the test.
They teach them how to pass the test, just to drive,
Right.
basically.
Right? And I'm not saying, they should do this legally, but morally, at least morally, show them at least some of the regulations.
Right.
When I tell people there's 207 regulations just in vehicle maintenance, they're surprised. Right?
Right.
And when I tell them, okay, yeah, but you have 38 regulations upon hours of service, they think there's only 2 or 3, right? So it's amazing how there's a lack of knowledge, right? Let's use that lack of knowledge,
Lack of knowledge, yeah.
right? In the entire industry, and that's something that needs to be done. Otherwise, we're going to have a whole bunch of truckers, in prison for something that they didn't even realize it was a crime.
It was illegal, right? Yeah. Yeah, there should be some type of education, and that's why I think that, podcasts like this and episodes like this where we're discussing so many different regulations are very important. Like, and if you're not familiar with regulations, make sure that you look them up, especially if you have a fleet. If you have more than one person driving, on the road, not only is your driver is going to be held accountable, but also the companies.
Right, and God forbid we get to a situation where there's a big accident, or there's a severe injury, or death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes many people don't understand is depending on that culture inside that company, or the business owner, the dispatcher, and even safety guy can get into trouble, right? There have been a lot of cases that dispatchers and safety guys have gone to jail too.
Wow.
Because of what the actions of what driver did, because they pretty much condoned it.
The dispatcher and the safety went to jail?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a big case, right? But this, if I remember correctly, this is going back about 6 or 7 years ago, right? The safety guy would assist the drivers on how to cheat on their hours of service. The dispatchers would know that they were doing things. So the entire culture was there.
Right.
And what
Trying to get
happened, and the law came down and said, well, you get here's your percentage, here's your percentage, here's your percentage, and they all ended up going.
Wow.
So it's a lot of dispatchers just think that their job is basically just handing out a piece of paper or handing out a job.
But they have a
and
responsibility too.
there's a much bigger responsibility when the manure hits the fan, let's say.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, and that's really really important to know. Everyone involved will be held responsible. So, it's a big responsibility. I just don't feel. I feel like a lot of people don't understand. Also, like the safety hazard that it is to drive a 53-foot vehicle. This is a machine. This is a heavy duty machine. Like, it's even hard to break this machine.
It's an 80,000 pound. Well, let's go with 80,000 pounds, right?
Yes.
80,000 pound missile coming down the road.
Yep. Yep. And it's a lot of responsibility. You have pedestrians. It's hard to turn, especially if you're like local. It's just so many different things. And I agree. Like, some schools are not also are definitely not teaching it. I'm just a recent school graduate from my CDLA, so in terms of safety, I didn't learn much.
Congratulations on your CDLA.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you. Yeah.
But one of the things I do a lot of seminars. I do a lot of training exercises and stuff. And one of the things I did, I was doing an hour service class, and I asked, because everybody was there mostly about about 5 years or more, right? And I asked the guys, what color is the cover of the book? What color is it?
What color is the what?
Cover of the regulations of the FMCSR.
Oh, the
for the
book?
motor car, right? For
Yeah.
our Bible, right?
Yeah.
I asked them what the color is the cover. Not one of them can tell me.
I can't tell you either.
Right? So, and it's sad because indirectly, what are you telling me? If you don't know the color of the cover,
I'm not
you
ready
did-
to be on the road.
you didn't even open the book,
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
No.
much less read it. Right?
Right.
So, and by the way, the cover is for property carriers is green,
It's green.
And for passengers is blue.
Yeah.
Right?
I
But-
held the book. I held the book in the last episode. I just couldn't remember. I actually opened it and turned a couple pages.
But and it's a 700-page book or so.
Yeah.
Right. But not everybody needs to know all 700 pages.
Right. That's what I
Okay.
jokingly said. I'm like, if they would have gave me this in class, I probably would have been like,
Well, I'm gonna.
we
give
would
you,
have less CDL drivers. I'll tell you that much.
just to give you a quick thing of what happened to me when I went and took my safety course. Right, I had that 700-page book on top. I had the course book, which is about another 500 some odd pages, and the CVSA out of service criteria on top.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm looking at about 1,000 pages on a Monday morning at 8:30, and they told me our first test was going to be at 2 o'clock.
Wow.
A lot of people want to get up and leave. I'll tell you that because
It's a
there was
lot
no
of
way.
information.
Right. Now, but all kidding aside, right? Drivers should really only need to know about maybe 140 pages of those 700.
140 pages.
So, and I tell guys this, okay? Oh, I don't got time. If you take 10 minutes out of your day,
While you're waiting for a load.
exactly, right? And you read in those 10 minutes, you read 20 pages. Now, 2 pages a minute. A first grader that's just learning how to read can read 2 pages a minute, right? So
Right.
it's not something that's going to be a lot, right? In a week, you read all 100 pages. Now, you may not be an expert at it, right?
But you have some
But
knowledge.
you have some type of knowledge. You have an idea, and if you want to give, a couple of days later, a couple of years later, oh no, wait, I remember reading something about this. Let me go back to the book and find it, right? It's only 140 pages. Even company owners, for example, they don't need to know all 700 pages either.
Right.
They only need to know about 480 maybe or so, 500 to round it off. Right? Now,
a lot.
I need to know all 700 pages, unfortunately. Right?
Yeah.
Me as a consultant, I need to know all of them. But,
Right.
even the company owners don't need to know all this. Right? And you'd be surprised how nobody takes the book. And it's because nobody reads the book. We're taking risk, and we don't even know what the risk we're taking.
Right.
And
the
some of us
consequences.
can land us in jail.
Right. Right.
And we go into the industry to make money, not to get ourselves incarcerated.
Right. And get ourselves in a jam and have even more debt than what you thought.
Right. and many people think, say, OFMC is out to get us. They're not out to get you, right? Their motto is their core is to reduce accidents. They want, ultimately, they want a year with zero commercial vehicle accidents and fatalities,
Right.
right? Canada, for example, right? Have you been inspected? Have you had road service? I'm sorry, not road service, roadside inspection.
No,
done yet?
I haven't. I haven't drove yet.
Okay.
All I did was get the license.
well,
I haven't drove yet.
What happens when you get into a roadside inspection? Right, there's an accident. There's a inspection report, and you may have 4 or 5, let's say 4 violations. Right now, 9 times out of 10, you don't have 4 or 5 fines. Right, no tickets. Right, they just violations.
Right.
In Canada, they don't do that. If you have 4 violations, you get 4 tickets. Right, and from my understanding, the cheapest fine is about 400 Canadian dollars, which is about 360, 370 American dollars.
American dollars, yeah.
So Canadian truck drivers don't play. They don't take risks. They know each violation's out there. It's going to be, it's going to cost them pretty much half their trip or more.
They're on point, yeah.
So maybe we should, get into that type of mind frame at least, right?
Right. Follow that.
Follow their lead a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for the troopers to start handing out all these citations either.
Right,
okay?
right. We don't
I
want
you get the wrong idea, right? But this is what happens, right? And many guys don't understand. Every violation on the report, whether it's yours or the company's, will go onto the driver's PSP, right?
Right.
There's no points assigned to them, right? As it would be assigned to the carrier, right?
Right.
But that will stay on the driver's record for 3 years, not the MVR, the PSP.
The PSP, which
Which
makes it harder for them to even secure
Because
employment.
exactly because people like us that during the hiring process look at PSPs. Insurance companies also look at. I had a guy a few years back. His MVR was completely clean. It looked like it was issued today. And driver had a driving record about maybe 6 or 7 years. When I ran his PSP, right, he had 7 accidents in the last 5 years,
Oh, wow.
all in commercial vehicles. Now, many people would say, why didn't it show up on his MVR? It was because they were all out of state.
Oh, okay.
So this is why, right?
Having both
they-
reports
they-
is so important.
Exactly. A lot of drivers worry about their MVR. Which really, they should be worrying about their PSP.
All right. So company owners, remember that. That's a point to take. Make sure that you look at the driver's MVR and PSP before hiring. And maybe create some type of like training where, your drivers can get trained on some of these safety regulations, or print out some paperwork for them so that they can study on the truck while they're waiting. Just make sure that everyone is kind of like equipped, right? So if you don't have a safety department or someone, because most small companies don't have a safety department,
And we go back to some of the things that I said the last time I was here, right? They see us as an expense,
Right.
but we're not a revenue generating venture. We're a revenue saving venture.
Right.
Right? We're here to save the money that the company has already worked for and has it in their coffers.
And save the company in itself and its employees and,
Exactly. And I tell drivers, I usually open up some of my training seminars with what's our number one job? What's our first thing? When we go to work, what's our first job? And many people, inspect the truck or do this, do that. And it goes, no, it's to come home back safe to our families. That's our number one job, to come back safely to our families.
Right.
Right? Nobody wants to have to knock on your loved one's door and say, listen, he's not coming back.
Right.
So, sometimes our way of thinking skewers, and we don't necessarily go back to the fundamentals.
Right.
Right? And I see this all the time. I see guys, goes, I got the CDL, now I'm a professional truck driver. Well, that's like me going to Home Depot, buying a hammer and say I'm a carpenter.
Right. Yeah. No.
The CDL is a tool.
Yeah. It takes.
That's not your profession.
Right. It takes a lot of experience. I said that when once I started driving, I'm like, listen, this is not something that comes natural.
No.
Even as a regular driver, this is something that's going to take some time and some experience for me to really like feel comfortable in that truck.
Well, when I was teaching my daughter how to drive, right, I would tell her, careful, that guy's going to cut you off. How did you know? Careful, this guy's going to come in. It's just experience.
Yeah.
I've been through it already.
Right.
Right? And you can tell. And,
Right.
and the more you're on the road, you can see the drivers coming up from behind you with an issue, or the drivers ahead of you.
Right.
Right? And you only gain that by experience.
Right. And it's the only way to prevent problems. You're gonna run into problems, and the only way to prevent them is to learn from them and make sure that you listen to other people sometimes. Make sure that you pay attention. You educate yourself so that you can prevent some of the biggest problems that this industry can really get you
Exactly.
into.
And I tell people, for example, myself personally, I tell people, I'm in the problem avoidance business. Everything I do is to avoid a problem.
Right.
Right? A lot of people put me in the problem solving business. Right? Which I can do that. Not a problem. I can also do that. But
Yeah.
it's a lot it's more expensive and more stressful
Yeah.
than to just avoid it altogether.
Yeah, and most of the time we spend so much time trying to problem solve in the in the industry, because everything, like every little load, every interaction that you have is usually something is happening. It's never like a super smooth day in trucking. There's no such thing.
Oh, smooth
So-
day in trucking? That's not happening. As I remember,
It's not that type of industry or job.
I started in the industry, believe it or not, as a dispatcher. I didn't start as safety guy. I lateraled into safety afterwards, and I worked in every department. I worked in customer service. I worked in HR also. So I know a lot about this industry,
Right.
right? And I remember days I would come in and my desk already had 19 problems, and I would solve one, and they gave me 19 more.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Right? So you were there all day just trying to solve problems.
Yeah.
And what we need to be more proactive than reactive, right?
Right.
I don't know if many people may understand maybe the difference. A person or a company that's proactive will look at possible problems that may arise or may occur and do something to avoid it.
Right.
The reactive people and companies wait for the problem to show up to try to deal
And
with
then
that later.
take care of it.
Right?
Yep.
And something that could have cost maybe $100 to prevent something just cost us $4,000 or $5,000.
Right.
And this is where I tell people, I'm in the problem. I'm not a revenue generating
Yep.
venture. I have to save those $5,000.
And that's why rules and regulations are in place and must be followed, because we want to prevent that, right?
Exactly.
We want to prevent, taking money out of our pockets, just losing money. It's so easy to lose money in this industry, and if you could prevent it, like, hey,
We can make a lot of money. However, if you don't do things right, you're going to lose a lot of money.
it becomes a liability.
And one of the things that you should do is ask yourself this question, right? What am I risking and what's my reward?
Right.
Right? You'd be surprised how many situations I've had where I asked the guy, what was your reward? Tell me. Okay, you were speeding down the left-hand lane, right? Doing 85 miles an hour. What for? Were you late for the appointment? No. Why were you speeding? And they'll give me, I don't know.
Right.
Well, now, because you were in the left lane and speeding to 80 miles an hour, you got stopped by a trooper, he pulled you over for an hour, now you're late.
Right.
You weren't late before, but now you're late. So where was the risk? Obviously you knew the risk, but where was the reward?
Yeah, it made no sense.
And you
made
see
no
this
sense.
every day.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, it's something that, like we mentioned earlier, it's just people just sometimes just don't know. They just don't have the knowledge and just inexperience.
And I tell most of the truckers that I know the little pieces that they know because they heard other people say it. That's fine.
Right.
But sometimes I have to tell them, you have to look at who is that person saying it. I mean, would you take medical advice from a plumber?
No, absolutely not.
No, right?
Right.
So you have to see where it's coming from.
Don't let the blind
The blind
lead
leading
the
the blind.
blind.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, make sure you're taking good
Oh,
advice.
so and so has been driving for 10 years. Yeah, but he's got a record longer than the Constitution, right?
Right.
So that's not good. That's not good either, right?
Guys,
So,
you make sure you tune in and listen to Tab, please, because he has experience. He has more than enough knowledge to educate us all on these topics. And Tab, thank you for sharing so much information, and sharing this information with us, because a
you're
lot of
welcome.
people, we just need to know. Sometimes we just don't know, like that, unfortunately, that first case that
And
we
we learned
presented.
the hard way, and that's not good. Human beings learn one of two ways, right? Either by seeing the mistakes other ones have made, or making our own mistakes.
Right.
And for some reason, we just love making our own mistakes.
All right, guys. So make sure to do the right thing. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment, please. And if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out to us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, the 95 Trucking Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, signing out. Peace.
Bye bye.